Hello and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the sibling podcast to the popular weekly title. I'm this week's host, an incredibly warm Jesse Billington, and I'm joined by our deputy editor, Chris Hope.
Hello.
And our content editor, James Peen. Gents, aside from hot, how are we?
Happy for having had a haircut, so yeah.
I'm going the other way. I'm growing my hair out and kind of regretting my life choices at the moment. It is warm. But then I've had the most English conversations today. I've spoken about the weather, Brexit and football. That's kind of the three most British things you can talk about in a day, isn't it?
The holy trinity of Britishdom, yeah. It's sort of, isn't it hot? Oh, it's 10 years since we made that awful decision. Can't believe we drew with Ghana. Next point.
Which is the worst one, probably, the Ghana result.
To be fair, the Ghanaian witch doctor has said he has now lifted the curse on Harry Kane, so he'll be able to play to his full abilities for the remaining matches in the group stages, which I think is very sportsmanlike of him.
I did see that. I thought that was quite nice of him.
Yeah.
It's nothing compared to the despair that some of my friends experienced as Scotland's fans. So yeah, there was a point yesterday where Haiti were beating Morocco, and they were 2-0 down to Brazil, and suddenly it was only a single goal difference that was keeping them from the fourth spot, sort of thing. So yes.
Yeah, life is marginally better therefore as an English fan, let's say. But with the football out of the way, we'll touch on the cup in a bit when we get to the end of the podcast. But we'll kick off, as we usually do, with an Our Classics catch-up. And obviously the weather has been great for getting out and working on cars. Have we been?
Has it been great for getting out and working on cars?
I mean, admittedly, I was sweating bullets at 11:30 last night, pulling the radiator out of the Jimny, and that was, quite late into the evening. So it's been
what was
dry.
the update that you shared with us on Teams yesterday?
What, the midget had started boiling its own petrol, sat on the driveway at home?
Yeah. That's great conditions for working, isn't it?
Yeah. So it usually parks at the front of the house, which is south-facing. And the problem there is it means that as soon as the sun gets past about sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock in the day, it's just beating down on the front of the house. And Mum gets home. She'd been out running some errands in the morning. She comes down the drive and sort of pokes her head in the back room and goes, petrol's leaking out the back of your car. And I go, oh, that's probably not good. So I go and have a look, and it's just pouring out of the top of the fuel filler neck past the cap. And I'm like, right, run and grab some shop cloth and the keys for the cap, pop the cap off, and it's just gushing out of the cap. It's expanded. I'd filled the tank up.
Had you filled it the night before or something?
Yeah, I'd filled it the night before after running out in the middle of Luton, which, again, separate story, and filled the car up, left it parked for the road. I didn't think that the air and the fuel in the tank was going to get so hot and expand so much that it would start simply bubbling and jettisoning out of the sort of fuel filler neck. So we ended up rolling the car down the drive, parking it in front of the garage, putting the gazebo up over it, and then the big sort of lawn umbrella in front of that as well. So it had a very shaded spot to sit in. It hasn't done it since, so clearly it was just a temperature-related thing. But yeah, the thing is that it runs perfectly fine in the heat. I've been driving it all weekend. I've been down at Brands Hatch, been down to Red Hill to go and look at a house, driving it around on the motorway, M25, M1, heavy traffic, even queuing for 40 minutes to get into the Dartford crossing on Monday evening. Temperature gauge was perfectly happy. So the engine's fine with the heat. It's just the expansion of the fuel, and where it gets hot, it likes to run a little bit richer, so I keep the choke just slightly pulled, and as a result it was getting through a bit more fuel than I'd anticipated. So I saw it got to 170 miles on the clock. I was like, okay, about time to pull in and fill up. And the M1 was getting sticky, so I thought, pull off the M1. I know where there's a petrol station in Luton, just on the way out. I'll be able to fill up there and get home. That'll be fine. Ran out 2 miles short of the petrol station. So at least done the wise thing. You have
form on this.
I have great form of running out of petrol in all conditions, all cars. And it was just a case of I sort of ran out 2 miles from it. I checked my map and I was like, oh, there's another one closer. It's still 30 degrees at sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. So I just sort of bumped. No, there's loads of people stood around watching this happen. No one offers to help. So I just pushed the car onto the pavement off of the four-way junction that I run out of fuel in the middle of.
Yeah.
Useful. Bump it off onto the curb, park it up, lock it, and simply look at my phone and go, well, there's a Esso half a mile away. I could probably jog to that. They'll have jerry cans. I'll buy a jerry can, put some petrol in.
And what were you wearing?
Denim shorts and a shirt.
Oh.
So it was chafing and very hot.
Oh.
Jog to the Esso. Have you got jerry cans? No.
No.
There's a big Sainsbury's across the road. I'm sure they'll have something. No. The Lidl's next door. Hopefully the middle aisle of Lidl will actually have something in it that I need, not necessarily. No. So in the end, phone my friend who lives one town over. He comes with his Land Rover and tows me the 2 miles up the road to the petrol station. He very smugly arrives with the windows down, blaring the Thunderbirds theme tune as well. So hard to live that one down. Thank you, Alex, for towing me home. And also thank you to, turns out, another friend from the area who I had never met before. The only person who stopped to ask if I was okay and if I needed any help. Local chap called Michael, who was a MG ZT, so a fellow MG owner. He was walking home and asked if I needed any assistance. So that was quite the adventure.
And what are you going to keep in your boot from now on?
I'm going to reinstate the 5-litre jerry can. Yeah, there is one in the workshop that I'll be loading into it tomorrow to drive to North Wales because, again, I'm supposed to be climbing Snowdon on Saturday. The weather's breaking, so it's terrible on Saturday. And the only car I have working still is the MG. So thankfully, though, the A5 runs right by my house and goes all the way to North Wales, so I can just sort of get on that, avoid the motorways, and be home fine.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, this is temperatures where you can be working on cars, but I have vivid memories of doing an oil change on the TR7 in this sort of temperature, and just it's the combination of dirt and oil on your arms and sweat, and it just doesn't come off. And it's just like
Yeah.
So no, I've not been doing anything with the Mini. I'm using the heat as a very convenient excuse, but no, the Mini continues to sit where it is, sort of thing. So
no, I'm the same. I've moaned about how wet it's been, and now I've just been out to my car about 5 minutes before this podcast started, and I couldn't touch it. It's just like an oven.
It's black, isn't it? So
it's black.
I mean, the bit that you haven't scuffed and scratched is black. So
it's very black. But say I open the door, it's like when you open the oven to get something out, and like the heat hits you. It's like. So I think tonight it'll be a gin and tonic and sit on the lawn rather than tinkle their cars together. And then it'll rain next time. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, I do need to sort out one major thing with the MG, which is it's decided to spring a new and inventive oil leak, which is out of the top of the oil filler cap. Usually MGs will leak from everywhere else, but it's decided that when the engine gets warm and the oil pressure sits at around 60 where it's supposed to for this engine, it likes to jettison its oil not from sort of the gasket around the rocker cover, but through the tiny, tiny pinhole in the top of the filler cap and spray that everywhere. So I've decided I'm going to swap it back for the other rocker cover I've got from the second engine I ever bought for it and swap that back on, but then found that I've lost the filler cap for that one. So I've had to order a replacement filler cap for the second rocker cover to hopefully try and resolve this problem, because I have no clue where this alloy rocker cover has come from, what make it is, where to get a replacement cap for it. So I've just gone back to the factory standard red stamped one where I'll be able to get an easy replacement cap for it. So that will be fixed when I get back from Wales. Hopefully, in the meantime, a radiator and some hoses will arrive for the Jimny, which is currently still sort of in a non-working condition and needs to drive me to Silverstone on Wednesday, full of camping gear and a girlfriend. So it's all hands on deck at the moment in the workshop, and I've decided to take a weekend off from all of that to go and drive to Wales. Admittedly, that was booked before the Jimny decided to blow its radiator to pieces.
Yeah. I mean, is 2 cars enough?
A third car would probably sort of increase my odds of having at least one working at any point in time, but I feel it would also increase the odds of them all breaking at the same time. So it kind of swings and roundabouts.
I was going to say, it's exactly increasing your odds not having something working. Because, if you've got 3, then you never work on 3 at once, do you?
No, I mean, I rarely work on 2 at once. I think there's been maybe had the MG a total of 8 months where I've had both cars working at any given point in time, and that's about right. It seems about right. Where I've only ever had sort of both of them on the road in a drivable condition. So it was fun in the workshop last night, crawling around, and again, the sort of the combination of dust, oil, and sweat seems to make a heavy sort of paste.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then got in. I was like, it's 11:30 at night. I at least remember my house keys this time, so I didn't have to climb through my bedroom window. But mum and dad had already long gone to bed, so I'm sort of left with this dilemma of like, I can't have a shower. That's going to be too noisy. And I reckon I can get away with very sort of like with a soapy flannel, just trying to get the worst off my arms and legs. And then sort of wake up the next morning, look at the dirt in the shower tray and go, ooh, good thing I at least sort of dampened myself down before getting into bed. But yeah. Still, with the workshop out of the way and all the remarkable ailments that my MG seems to be throwing at me in new and inventive ways, I do want to talk about the fact that I've been driving a lot with the roof down as well, while the weather conditions have been fantastic. And it reminded me that also one of the things I've been doing recently is keeping a track of how far I've driven it at any given point in time with the roof down, which so far this year we are up to, should have added this up before the start of the podcast, about 600, 700 miles with the roof down this year, which is pretty good going. Most of that's been done in March, oddly enough. But that reminded me that Mini introduced the open O-meter in the 2009 R57 convertible. And you can actually still get that as sort of like a screen display on the modern ones, which just simply tracks the amount of time you've driven the car around with the roof open. So what random statistic do you wish your cars had a gauge for?
Oh, I've been contemplating this one and I've not come up with anything yet. I think when we were talking about things in previous podcasts, we were talking about how much our day can be greatly improved by a classic car owner waving back to us. I think some way of tallying that might be quite cool.
Sort of like a little clicker that you can just sort of advance each time you spot someone sort of waving at your car. That'd be quite fun. The sort of the happiness meter.
Or even better, I mean, this would need to be like, some degree of sophistication. But you can get like the video doorbells, and they can sort of automatically sort of go on when someone sort of approaches your door. Maybe there's a way that it could work out. That's just clever AI sort of thing, that when someone's waving at you, record it, and then you can get like a compilation at the end of the year of everyone who did it sort of thing. As a bit of a, you were here, you were going that way, you were on this road, things like that sort of thing. So
like a sort of,
because then you can collect the data and find where you're more likely to get waves as well. And it's like, Surrey proved to be the best county for eliciting waves from other classic car owners.
A Spotify Wrapped for your sort of your car's happiness measures. Yeah, that'd be quite fun. You were waved at 57 times this year. Your most popular waving month was May or something.
I see. I went the complete opposite direction. I'm really sick of technology telling me about what I'm doing. So, like, every time I get in my car to go and pick my daughter up, my phone tells me 15 minutes to her school. It's like, well, how did it know I'm going there? Apart from the fact it knows I go every time, every day at the same spot. So it kind of annoys me. And I was, well, what would I actually like? And then I got a reminder telling me that my tax is due on the van. So the van's been off the road for long enough to now be out of tax. So then I started thinking, I know, I would like something like we used to have in the old days, where you get a little sticker on your door jamb from the garage for your service intervals. So I went out to go and get one because a friend of mine gave me a bunch of Esso ones to put on the Beetle, hence burning myself in the car about 5 minutes ago. And I thought that would be really cool. Or there's little MOT stickers. You used to get the old school ones where they'd stick it on your window with a date. That's sort of old school technology. That's the sort of thing I would most sort of go back to, or old accessories. So I actually also pulled out, Chris will recognise this, no doubt, my original faux orange, which has still got the pin, has never, ever even been pierced, because obviously they stink, and also I don't really want to do that. So I think the more old school tech, the better. So tech, a sticker on your door jamb, or a nice smelling car. That's kind of where I'm at.
My mate's mum in primary school had one of those in a Mazda MX-3. It's like, yes, it's very period.
I used to buy them from my local petrol station between Phillips and just put them in my Beetle all the time, so it smelled of orange. But but now, have you seen how much they go for now on eBay? They are not cheap. They are not cheap. So this was a gift from a friend when I was talking about them. So he found one, tracked it down. But yeah, they are not a cheap purchase anymore. Faux orange.
Yeah, I think there's an easy blame point for that, and that's the Smith and Sniff podcast, where I know they've done a bit about the faux orange air fresheners, and I think that sort of caused a surge of interest in them once more. But the Suzuki until fairly recently used to do the sort of top of the windscreen sticker for your MOT or your servicing.
Yes,
because the Jimny has them in the top corner, and yeah, even until fairly recently, when I've been taking it to like a main dealer to get it sort of a service or anything sorted, they would always sort of put a fresh sticker in. So there's sort of like a wonky stack of them sort of in the top corner, where sort of each service engineer has splat one on. But I do like the sort of the countdown idea of it, where you sort of look up at it and go, oh, that needs doing soon. One of those for sort of tax as well in the other corner would be quite useful, as opposed to waiting for like the reminder to come through the V11, isn't it, for your tax reminder?
Yeah. And when that pops through the door, you say, oh no, you know what it is. You know it's not going to be good. It's in a brown envelope. You think, what have I done? And then you open it and it's, tax this time.
Like,
that's a guilty conscience speaking right there.
Yeah. There's always something. There's always something coming through the door. I have actually got a speed awareness course that I've got to do as well. So yeah, that's my bad as well. But yeah, you get one for the door, you think, hopefully that's it. So when that kept popped for the door the other day, I thought, oh no, I haven't been done again. But no, fortunately, it's just my tax.
Yeah. Dare we ask how much and where and the conditions? Because that's always the interesting thing, because everyone's got their own justification.
It was down the road where it goes into a 40. I was doing 34 on the way to the school run. So I knew I should do it, but it's one of those sort of downhill bits where it's a little bit quicker as you're speeding up to get towards the faster bit. So yeah, hands up, I did it. I did the drive. I'll do the time on it. So there we go.
3-hour course, 90 quid to do it, isn't it? About that, if I remember.
It's 3-hour course, and it was 100 quid.
Ooh, it's gone up.
Yes.
When I did it cost me about 90. Yeah, because as you just do,
I can't remember how much it cost.
Yeah.
So.
They used to be about the same price as the actual points, didn't they? It would be like 60 quid. Now it's 100 quid, but no points to my license, and I shall consider my course of actions in the future.
Yeah, it's when I remember being quite bored sat through mine. I did the mental arithmetic of how many people were on the Zoom call at that point in time, assuming all of us have paid 90 quid to be there, realizing that someone's making a pretty penny off of this. Someone's hourly rate is enormous, and which didn't improve my already embittered view on the entire matter, because I've been caught doing I think 54 in a 50, and it was because they'd brought in a new lower limit through a section that you just so used to driving, you just sort of mind forgets, but not really an excuse. Don't speed, I think, is the official stance of the Classic Car Weekly podcast. With some interesting gauge talk out of the way, we'll get into some of the previous news stories, because of course we've been away for a week. We just sort of got hung up with production of the print copy, which means we missed talking about the 17th of June issue and the lead news story there, which was rise of fake heritage certificates coming to the market and what we should be looking out for.
Yeah, I mean, this came about from the British Motorage Industry Heritage Trust, and their senior certificate officer, Richard Backus, had been alerted to a website that was issuing certificates or offering certificates with information on cars, that the only place that actually has those records is the British Motor Museum. So where these people thought they were going to get their information from is a little bit of a misnomer. So he reached out to us to say we should be aware of this, and actually, if you want a certificate for, and he gave me a whole list of cars that they cover, that the museum is the only place to go to them. I mean, and to be fair, the website that he shared with me looked really good. We all agreed it was like a really proper website, but it was only when you start clicking on things that you noticed like things like the URL would change, it would take you somewhere else, and there was no contact information for these people. So essentially you would you say you want your certificate, you pay your money, off it would go, and it was for twice the amount that the museum charges for their certificates. And the likelihood is you might either get something back with nothing on it that's at all usable, or you could use to import or register a car, or you might not hear it back at all. And we reached out to them as well, and we got no reply. So if that's what we got, then I imagine a lot of people who've gone down that route with them have also been stung.
Yeah, it's one of those things, because their sort of official heritage certificates are not just a nice thing to have, but they can be quite important when it comes to sort of tracing vehicles' history and sort of really proving sort of ownership and years in country and so on. So when it comes to sort of certifying vehicles for their age, it's an important step, and sort of it's I wouldn't say it's a weak point, but it's certainly one of those things we've never seen exploited before.
Yeah, I mean, Richard told us that he was elected because it was the Malaysian registration authorities had reached out to him and said someone had tried to import a car with one of these certificates, and basically it just said Porsche convertible, no other information on it whatsoever. And it had apparently, that's not the sort of thing they cover. They don't cover Porsches at all. But it just, someone was trying to use a certificate. So obviously they'd got one, but the information on it was not at all usable for import or registration purposes.
Yeah. Interesting that it came all the way from Malaysia that we found this story sort of popped up with that was his flagging point.
Well, Richard says they do on average, I think it's 100 a week certificates.
Wow.
So they send them all over the place, all over the UK, all over the world, and they have contacts all over. So when somebody reached out and said, we've had this, do you know anything about it? It was like, well, actually, no, that's nothing to do with us, and it's got no information that was at all usable for you.
Yeah. Oh. Impressive to know that it stretches that far globally. But good top tip, obviously sort of be wary when you're sort of browsing for these items. And obviously the only place that we can recommend, as you said, was through the British Motor Industry Heritage Trust Archive, which is over at the British Motor Museum in Gaydon, isn't it? That's where they've got sort of the full racks and lists of all the sort of details of cars and chassis numbers that are produced and sort of so on, isn't it?
Well, their website actually lists all the cars that they cover, whereas, again, the fake website, there was no list of cars they covered. So, potluck, if you manage to get hold of them or get a certificate, but they're not going to have the information that you actually need either. But say no list of cars, whereas the museum does. They'll tell you what they can offer and to who.
Really interesting point. We'll dive then into this week's lead news story, which is another one that's sort of quite an interesting one with how it sort of could possibly impact the classic car world. And this is the sort of incoming social media ban that was sort of levied by government and parliament to sort of improve the welfare of sort of minors, people under the age of 16. And it's one of those questions of sort of how does this relate to the classic scene?
It's a funny one because I thought when I started investigating the story that a lot of people will be really anti it, because obviously a lot of clubs use social media. I know when I started out in the club scene, so we all had our own websites, and then eventually that graduated over to Facebook and Instagram. So you have these little cliques that way. I don't know many clubs who have like a forum these days. I'm sure a lot of the old school stuff still does. So social media is the way that everyone keeps in touch about events and, cost for sale, bits for sale, that sort of stuff. So I thought it would be viewed quite negatively, but actually speaking to everybody who I approached for the story, everyone seems to view it as quite a good thing. And actually, if you're getting kids off phones and social media, then the likelihood is they see it as it's an opportunity to engage more with them at club level.
Mm. Chance to really sort of authentically engage with the next generation as opposed to sort of just through digital sort of interface. It's a really good step. And equally, classic cars aren't natively digital. They are tactile things that need to be experienced in person. So I think there is a positive to sort of driving people, the next generation, to really get up there and sort of be part of it, which is a good thing.
I think to my mind, I very much thought along the lines of James, whereby if you're looking to sort of, spread the word about something you're doing, perhaps, encourage people to support you, then putting it on social media is a great way of doing that sort of thing. But the interesting point was, yes, there is an opportunity here to see the resurgence of old school forums. WhatsApp groups are not exempt from this ban, so there's the opportunity to sort of do that there. And a lot of people just sort of, talking about common sense. The idea that, if you are going to allow your children into these spaces, then you need to monitor them. Whether that's a physical space or whether that's a digital space, then it's an opportunity to sort of approach it as a family rather than as individuals, sort of thing. So, and yeah, I mean, I think it was Sarah Crabtree, wasn't it, who was saying that it's an opportunity for education. It's you can go into schools and things like that, spread the word of classics that way, and rather than searching for them online, you go to your local event and yeah, perhaps the bigger thing here is that it's even more important now that we are an open community, that we make steps to engage with youngsters who show an interest in our vehicles. don't be closed-minded about it, because there's now one less route for them to get into the hobby. So where there are those opportunities, we really need to seize them to make the most of them.
I sort of was in two minds when I sort of was trying to sort of puzzle this one out, because on the one hand, car clubs aren't really going to have any members under the age of 17, let's say, because no one is really driving under that age. But equally, at the same time, when you look at sort of shows that are sort of out in public, if you look at certainly events and sort of hosting spaces like Caffeine and Machine, where you have a lot of younger car enthusiasts that are there and posting what they sort of see and find on social media, that's the next generation going through and sort of spreading the word. And is there sort of going to be a bit of a hamperance that way as well? So on the one hand, while clubs aren't going to be impacted too greatly by it, are there going to be sort of hurdles when it comes to sort of...
You're right, Jesse, but likewise, just because you can't drive a car doesn't mean that you can't get enjoyment from it. Yeah. I think there is a not inconsiderate amount of youngsters who are restoring cars, either as individuals or as a group of friends or as a sort of like a family situation. So yeah, I think if there's one that stands out to me, it's sort of the YouTube side of things. I think I certainly refer to YouTube for tutorials on how to do work to cars and things like that. Closing that off as an avenue seems quite short-sighted, but I don't know the details of it. Hopefully there is provision, for maybe with regards to the YouTube ban, it's specific age related content that is fenced off, but there's content there that is you are able to access, sort of things. I think closing off the video tutorial side of things would be a big hindrance for people who for youngsters who are working on cars, whether to sort of restore them from scratch or just maintain them to a level. I don't know, but I think it'd be a shame if they can't access that content.
I mean, funny enough, I saw an advert, I can't remember which it was Facebook or Instagram, but how to set up a junior account that popped up the other day. And I think, being able to police what your kids or younger generation are being exposed to, it's got to be a good thing. But surely there's going to be some sort of filter in there, that's car related content or, language or whatever, then that's going to be able to still get through. But as you say, how many kids post pictures of cars and cars at events on Instagram? Or they're following a build on YouTube or something like that. So I think they'll still get through. But being able to safeguard the younger generation is going to be a good thing. Everybody I spoke to certainly seems to agree that actually it was about time something happened, and let's see where we go from there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think sort of the crux of it is that sort of online safety is important, but it's going to be interesting to see sort of how clubs in the scene sort of adapt as that comes through and sort of finds ways of appropriately sort of slotting into the new structures that follow, I think is the best way of sort of lining it up. I think the adaptivity of sort of, or adaptability rather, of classic clubs has always been a strong thing. And obviously we've seen sort of the shift, certainly around sort of the COVID era, as they sort of modernized and sort of took to new platforms and ways of communicating. And I think we'll see sort of an appropriate adjustment again as it comes to sort of reaching new and younger audiences.
And a lot of Facebook pages I've certainly come across when I've been trying to contact a club for a specific story or something, they seem to be members only. So there's obviously some sort of gatekeeper monitoring who can join and what sort of things are being posted. So, a lot of clubs are already monitoring what goes on their social media. So, I suppose discretionary, could you view on your parents' account or something like that? Who knows? But, I think clubs are doing a lot to sort of maintain standards anyway.
Yeah, I think the right bits are being put in place as we go by. What's next on the list? So with the news out of the way, obviously there's two bits and pieces also that sort of slotted into our recent news coverage with the London Concours and the London Historic Trophy. It's a bit capital-centric where I've just sort of been out and about and on the road. London Concours was another very hot day out, which was sort of scorching in the middle of the city, as was London Historic Trophy actually, but both proved to be sort of really interesting ways of engaging with the classic sort of hobby in two very different frames, one through sort of the high end with the brilliant backstories and sort of the cars that you so rarely see on the roads, and the other was just simply a brilliant sort of weekend of racing at Brands Hatch with a great interview that's coming up in next week's issue with Sean Lynn, the head of Motor Racing Legends. So yeah, looking forward to sort of seeing that one come together, because it's nice sort of getting to experience classics across the spread as well, I think is the really important thing, and seeing a really good variety of people sort of turning up to these events and engaging with the classic scene, because it's sort of so open, so public.
I mean, you always seem to enjoy an event where you can wear your chinos and have a gin and tonic anyway.
Yeah, this is very true. Certainly for the Concours event, it was very much a case of your brightest coloured trousers and your most iced of gin and tonics. But yeah, London Historic Trophy, not a weekend weather for wearing trousers at all. That was, as best described, scorchio, and but some brilliant action around there. Generations Trophy as well. Great to see sort of so many of the younger generation getting into racing classics as well. Sort of all spec'd MGBs. That even to the point that, to keep it all such a level playing field, while all the cars come from different preparers, different teams and owners, all the cars are dynoed in the paddock before the race starts to make sure that the playing field is as level as possible. And yeah, some really good action and really easy to get behind. And again, nice to see a younger audience at the event as well, where you've got families there, you've got children that are there spectating and enjoying it and getting to go around the paddock and see the cars up close. It was really nice to sort of see the efforts that MRL are putting in to usher sort of people into the classic world and sort of saying, look, this is exciting, this is what these cars are about, this is what they do, hear them, see them, feel them, talk to people that run them, drive them, and making it sort of a very vibrant living museum and car show as much as it is a racing event, which I think was a really nice step to see them sort of taking.
Maybe is there like an age cut off for the MG series? Do they have to like be pre-65, or is it all just like how much power they're generating?
The cars have to all be FIK spec. I think they have to be possibly pre-66, pre-67. They've all got to be convertibles with a fixed hardtop roof on them. And then I think obviously they all run spec tyres for it. And it really depends on sort of how you've tuned it. I think there's obviously restrictions on your gear ratios and so on. But it keeps it all sort of, by and large, relatively close. I think the sort of the MGB racing community has sort of reached an apex as to quite how far you can develop that car. And as a result, sort of all the teams have sort of reached that point through sort of convergent evolution. But the result was a really good race and some sort of properly good racing action as well. If you just want to see good motorsports, always go for the things that are sort of spec or very close in format. So everything from Formula 2, Formula 3, IndyCar, right the way through to Generations Trophy, because it's level, it forces the drivers to really think about it and sort of measure out the moves, and sort of drivers going sort of three wide almost into Druids at Brands Hatch is a really exciting thing to watch, even if you're just a lay person. You sort of think, well, three cars aren't going to make it through this bend, one of them's going to have to come out in the lead. It's quite easy just to sort of pick a car and see how it does across the race. But yeah, it was quite an exciting weekend. Again, I got the chance to take my cousin along to it, who was over from Australia, so he could sort of see the action and enjoy it, and sort of go for sort of see just how close you can get at Brands Hatch as well. You've got the sort of simple Armco barrier, a 3-line sort of fence in front of you, and then that's it. It's just racing cars almost within touching distance. So a good spread. But yeah, one of those things that I love, the variety of the classic car scene. One week you can be sort of hobnobbing it around with one-off Vauxhall Calibras from the rally scene, and the next it's sort of 30 MGBs barreling through Paddock Bend. It's nice, it's enjoyable. But without wanting to drag this on too much, we've been chatting for 40 minutes already, certainly on the recording at least, and it's baking hot and I want some lunch. We'll wrap up this week's podcast, unless you guys have got anything else to add.
No.
A resounding silence. No, I'm good, thanks.
Looking forward to some cooler temperatures for the next one.
Oh yeah, I can't ensure that, but we'll see how we get on. Otherwise, we'll be back with another issue of Classic Car Weekly next week, and I need to figure out if we're going to do a podcast next week, because I think I'm spending most of next week in a tent at Silverstone, so it could be another 2-week gap until the podcast comes out. But we might be able to slot something in.
Yeah,
a bit of planning and coaching. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, remember, you can also take part in the Classic Car Weekly's Classic Cup on Facebook, where we're running a series of sort of matches and competitions to try and pick the ultimate classic car. This is run in a sort of alliance with Haggerty Insurance as well. I think there's also the chance to win a Tamiya RC car. So plenty to be found over there. Otherwise, we'll be back in about a week's time with another issue of Classic Car Weekly. Gents, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'll leave you to go and replenish your glasses with plenty of iced drinks of your choice. I forgot to
all is good at the world. Haley's back to nursery, and I've been able to work without having to watch having the background children's television, which is brilliant.
no constant Bluey on in the background. Just
I would love Bluey. Blue would be a blessing. No, what I've had is Waffle the Wonder Dog, Blippi, which is horrendous American crap. So yeah, it's yeah. I don't mind Ben and Holly. Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom's all right, but yeah, some of the stuff that she's had on is just literal brain rot. I've managed to keep her away from Coco Melon, thank Christ. So
Sarah and Duck was the big favourite in our house.
I like Sarah and Duck.
Yeah, Sarah and Duck's pretty cool.
I get a bit freaked out about it because the animation reminds me of. Did you ever do sort of Newgrounds and Salad Fingers?
No.
Salad Fingers, yes. Yeah.
Salad Fingers, it's a very similar animation, and I just think that it's going at any point it's going to turn and be quite gruesome. So yeah, it always sort of gets me. It's just like I don't know whether it's very, very similar style. I don't know whether it's like the same animator or it's what, but yeah, it is eerily similar sort of thing. And yeah, Salad Fingers is quite dark sort of thing. So it's the same guy who did the badger, mushroom snake thing. So yeah. Anyway, no, I don't mind Sarah and Duck. Yeah, it's anything that's cartoon rather than like an actual person, like live people. So yeah, I don't like adults pretending to be kids. It's just all a bit weird. So
it does make me wonder what the hell children's television is going to be like when I'm sort of in that situation of thinking, what do I put on?
Well, I know we're going horrendously off topic, but it's hilarious because we went to Peppa Pig World, not Peppa Pig World. We went to the NEC for Peppa Pig Space Adventure. They had CBeebies on a big screen outside with a play area, which is brilliant. And Haley just couldn't get her head around it. It's just like, why is it just not the same thing continuously? Like when I watch it. So like one of the programs she liked came on, and then something else came on afterwards. It's like, well, why? Why is it not just keeping on going sort of thing? Because 99.9% of the time she's watching iPlayer. So it's just you put something on and it continues. Play next video. Dougie verbatim sort of thing. So it was so curious, and so just like the idea of terrestrial television, she just doesn't understand it. It's just like that what? I don't understand. Skip the adverts on ITV. No, you can't. It's terrestrial television.
Yeah,
where's the skip button?
I explained to Cece that when I was a kid, you'd come home and you'd have like an hour at lunchtime, then nothing until like 4:00. And you get like 2 hours, and then it would be the news, and that was it. You might get the Flintstones if you were lucky at like 5:30. That was it.
Yeah.
It's like way.
The Simpsons at 6:00.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I was lucky. I had sort of the Thomas the Tank Engine sort of like omnibus sort of VHS tapes, so that was sort of a great way of just like binge watching sort of children's shows as a kid. But other than that, it would be like sort of when the new series came out, you were lucky if you caught it on. I think it must have been Channel 5 by that point, or Channel 3, ITV. But again, it was still very much the days of you got sort of like maybe an hour or two of children's program. We got an hour of sort of CBeebies, an hour of CBBC, the slightly older stuff, and then that was it. It was then just sort of adult daytime television. So if you're off home sick, it was atrocious.
Kids have no interest in Thomas the Tank Engine, none whatsoever. So
you've got to start them really early.
But I didn't just do Thomas the Tank Engine. I did Tugs. Who remembers Tugs?
Oh yes,
Tugs was amazing. It was
the boat version.
What blew my mind was when I look back. There's only like 6 episodes. It's an incredibly short run, and it's like I remember it being as big a thing for me as Thomas the Tank Engine. And it's just like there's a half a dozen episodes sort of thing, and that's it. And then it just got cancelled sort of thing. But God.
Well,
Tugs was amazing.
More expensive to make than Thomas the Tank Engine because it was the same style of filming. It was all the sort of a periscope camera, but it was all on water, so it was incredibly tricky to try and film. Yeah. And the fact they decided to keep seemingly blowing up the set nearly every episode, so every week there was some sort of major calamity, and it got very expensive. I remember having a Tugs bath toy as well, so you used to be able to get them as sort of actual toys.
I had the die-cast ones because I remember specifically the heads turned, so you had could get the unlike Thomas the Tank, you could get their heads to face in different directions sort of thing. So
I think we've still got all my Brio and my die-cast Thomas stuff in the loft.
No, I didn't do Brio. I did Tommy.
Ah, no, I was a very wholesome childhood. All my toys were wooden in that sense, wooden or made out of metal.
Anyway, sorry.
No, this can be edited into the absolute end of the podcast after the theme music is sort of like a bonus bit for people that stick around.
The childhood memories spin-off sort of thing. So
yeah, write in with your childhood toy memories. Right, with that.
I could have been spending this time actually doing the research I needed to do for the podcast, but there you go.